KTCBroadcasting.com.
And welcome. It's Western Finals Friday night here at KTCBroadcast.com. I am Sam Davis along with Terry Reinhardt, intern Dakota, Steve Roberts, our engineer. We're bringing you all the information you need to know about the area teams in the Western Finals. And, folks, we're fortunate enough to have 3 teams in the finals, Terry.
We are, and excuse me, but we are, and I'm glad to be here tonight. You know, you're 2 steps away tonight, and then the next one's what you asked for.
Well, last week we made the statement that coaches have always said that if you can be practicing on Thanksgiving Day, you've had a successful season. Well, this week we're Thanksgiving Day plus a week, so it's now they can actually see that gold ring hanging off the edge of the carousel, and all they got to do now is reach up and grab it tonight.
That's all you got to do, but them 2 objects stepping in your way over here in Cleveland County are a 3-time state champion and the all-time history state champions of Reidsville standing in Shelby's way.
There is so much history in these 3 Western Finals that we're going to be discussing tonight. Shelby Golden Lions will travel over to face the Reidsville Rams. That's the number 1 and number 2 teams in the state of North Carolina in wins. Reidsville is the all-time state champion leader in the state of North Carolina over the years. So that's so much tradition, so rich and deep in tradition. Northern Guilford, who have won 3 straight 3 AA state championships and trying to get to their 4th one, but they'll travel over to face the Crest Chargers, who have 4 state championships to their pedigree. And the upstart Forest View Jaguars, Terry, I mean, they're going to travel over to face a Concord squad that beat South Point last week, did something you and I neither one thought could happen, but they did it. Now, Forest View comes in with a totally different approach.
They do. They come in with a passing offense. And, you know, we mentioned last week, okay, Concord stopped the run because we talked to, Barry Martin called in. He said he went to see it, and he said everything that South Point did, they stopped it. They had to go to the pass. Well, you know, now Forest View is a team that passes. And we kind of spoke with Coach Cloninger last Saturday on Sports Talk, and he says, they faced a lot of passing teams. He said, I don't see where Concord's played all these teams that they have played without facing a passing offense.
Right.
So, here they come tonight. But then, on the other end of it, we said South Point should have beat Concord. But, Concord was in a state championship last year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So,
lost to Havelock.
Sure did.
But now Forest View comes into this game playing, I'm not making fun of anybody, but their defense is very suspect. They give up a lot of points, but they have the ability to score a lot of points.
They do. And, with Logan Bradley back there, and now Mo Neal has become part of their offense, you can't ask for nothing else. Our hats are off for them. We hope they go to Concord and pull off a big upset tonight.
Well, you're gonna see Logan Bradley and Mo Neal go out there and give their best shot to the Concord Spiders, but I'll bet they don't do it in the eye. After what Concord did to the South Point running game, I wouldn't try to run very much. I'd be slinging that ball all over the place because they've got the receivers and they got the quarterback that can do that. Well, tonight's game's on KTC Broadcasting. As we just kind of went through the lineup, we've gone from 7 games last week to only 3 games this week. The 3 AA contest will be on KTC Broadcasting, Northern Guilford at Crest. Andy Foster, Tim Foster, and Rob Roop will bring you all the action. Shelby travels to Reidsville. It is on KTCBroadcasting.com and WOHS 1390 AM. Brent Pasco and Jeff Jones will continue bringing you all that information. And the Forest View at Concord game, you can hear that also on KTCBroadcasting.com. Derek Smith and Cliff will be bringing you that game. We don't know Cliff's last name, but we understand he's going to be helping Derek do this game. So, Cliff, Derek, good luck tonight. You're going to be witnessing, hopefully, a great game.
Well, another thing, Sam, as we're looking around, don't forget all the other ones now. The 1A, the 1AA, everybody else is playing tonight in the 1A. Lejeune travels over to Plymouth. Plymouth with a 26-game winning streak, the second longest in the state of North Carolina. Plus, they are the defending 1A champions from last year. In the 1A West, you got Albemarle going over to Murphy. Albemarle, the 6th time in 7 years in the regional finals for that one. In the 1AA, you've got Wallace Rose Hill, a team that knocked off Tarboro last week, traveling over to James Keenan. And Swain County was a runner-up last year in the state, but they'll be traveling up to West Montgomery. And over in the 2A, we've got Southwest Onslow going over to Northeastern. And then the 2A is the game we're going to get into in just a little bit. Shelby goes to Reedsville. The 2AA, we've got Washington traveling over to High Point Andrews. The 2AA, surprise here, 2 teams out of Union County, Parkwood against Monroe.
How about that? How often do you think that happens when 2 teams in the same town make it through the playoff brackets, and here they're facing each other, and one's a number 2 seed and the other, Parkwood, is a number 16 seed?
This is the first time for Union County.
Wow.
So there you go for their county. And that they've had 2 teams meet this late in a football season. Over into 3A, we got Eastern Wayne traveling up to Havelock. Havelock, defending champions from last year, plus they have the longest winning streak in North Carolina of 28 games. And then we'll talk about Forest View and Concord here in a minute. Concord, like I said, runner-up last year in the state championship. In the 3AA, it will be Hunt going over to Southern Durham. And in the 3AA, Northern Guilford, 3-time state champion, traveling over to Crest. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. In the 4A bracket, you got J.H. Rose traveling over to Scotland County. It's going to be a mighty thing for J.H. Rose to come out on top of Scotland County.
Yeah,
Scotland County
Scotland
is a very...
Scotland spent many years as a bridesmaid.
Oh, yes.
They just never could win that conference, never could win a state. Richmond County ruled that end of the state and that conference year in and year out. Scotland would sneak up now and again, and they would steal one from Richmond once in a blue moon. But they were always the bridesmaid. Well, in the last couple of years, this program has really stepped up. Richmond has declined a little bit, and Scotland's now the top dog that way.
They have. In the 4A, you got Charlotte Catholic, the 3A AA runner-up last year, moved up to 4A this year, and they're in the Western Finals going over to place Greensboro Dudley. This ought to be a very interesting game. And then in the 4AA, Wake Forest goes over to Middle Creek, and I'm going to be a guy that goes out on a limb and says that game won't mean nothing because the 4AA is probably where your champion's going to come from as Butler travels over to Mallard Creek, and Butler is your 4AA champions from last year.
And Mallard Creek undefeated, having already beaten Butler earlier this year.
Yes, they have.
Back to Charlotte Catholic in the Class 4A. You know, it wasn't that long ago they were 2A. And the association said, you know what, with this open enrollment you guys have, able to take kids from South Carolina and anywhere, we're going to bump you up to 3A. Well, they came into the 3A, and they were very successful.
Oh, yes.
They won a title or 2 in different sports and were very competitive. So now the association says, we're going to bump you up to 4A. Well, here they are, folks. They're in the Western Finals in the 4A class against an undefeated Dudley team. And I think what that shows you is Charlotte Catholic has a program. They're not just a one-shot wonder, a group of athletes come through so they win. They win year in and year out. Their coach, Odo, he's been there for like 30 years. He's 70-something years old, I think. But he still does a great – I'm not – y'all can laugh. I think I'm right. He looks 70. He looks 70 years old, but he has done such a fabulous job over there at Charlotte Catholic.
I want to say one thing about him. He is the active winningest coach in North Carolina right now. 358 wins, 144 losses, and 2 ties. So he is the winningest active. The other guy that's right behind him is David Gentry from Murphy, is number 2 in the league. But you're talking about a team here, Charlotte Catholic. When they come into the 4A, and right off the start of the year, they wanted to play Mallard Creek.
Oh, yeah, and they got waxed.
They got waxed, 52-7. And the first thing I said when we come back on the air, I said, well, welcome to the 4A. But since then, they've won 10 straight. So
well, they did lose two 4A teams earlier this year. I know that Mallard Creek was one of them, and maybe Butler, or I'm not sure who the other team was, but they did lose 2 games this year. But, yeah, they've got a nice program going on up there. Well, let's go ahead and let you know in advance. We will not have any video again this week. This is the 4th week we will not have any video on ktcbroadcasting.com due to Time Warner regulations. They own the rights to all video in the Western North Carolina. Boy, it took you back a long ways there. In the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, Time Warner owns all video rights. So we can only do the audio, but luckily we're bringing you the 3 games that we discussed earlier. And we want to hear from you. Are you a Shelby fan? Are you a Crest fan? Or are you a Forest View fan? Give us a call. You can reach us in Cleveland County. It's a local phone number, so you don't even have to pay for the call. 704-482-1390. If you're in Gaston County, Forest View fans, let's hear from you. 704-435-3297. And in Lincoln County, give us a call at 704-735-8071. I know there's no Lincoln County teams playing, but I'm sure there's still some Lincoln County football fans over there that are going to be keeping up with what's going on in the area.
Oh, yes, they do. Even the coaches. I mean, Scott Kleniger, every year that he gets been over at Lincoln, and they'll get up a whole van full, and they all travel down to watch the state tournaments when it comes around, whether they're in it or not.
They're fans of the game, and that's what we love. Well, let's talk briefly about the weather. Holy moly, it was cold last week, and now we're in the 70s. I think game time temperature is going to be mid to upper 60s, chance of light rain. I don't think it's going to be any heavy rain in the forecast. All of that seems to be to the north and west of us.
Sam, my deal with that, who does this help? To me, when you get in rain situation, a passing team's going to have a hard time.
They will struggle.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, I don't know, there's gloves you can wear where he can grip the ball,
But it does affect them. I mean, back in the old days, they had a product called Stickum. You could spray it on, and this stuff was really good. It would take the rain at your hand, and you'd be able to catch the ball. But then the associations over the years outlawed it, made it illegal.
Sure did.
Well, let's get into the Crest and Northern Guilford game. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, so stick around.
Since 1986, Witherspoon Insurance Agency in Shelby has been serving families across Shelby and Cleveland County. And today, Wayne Witherspoon continues the tradition of bringing you the best insurance at the best possible price with names like the Hartford, Safeco, Progressive, National General Insurance, and Travelers. Drop by their office at 125 North Lafayette Street in Shelby and talk with one of their friendly hometown agents. Witherspoon Insurance Agency, your independent insurance agency since 1986. Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
Extraordinary standards, extraordinary service. That's what you receive from Clay Barnett Funeral Home. Clay Barnett has been serving the needs of Cleveland County people since 1960. When you lose a loved one, see Eric and Casey Bester, funeral directors at Clay Barnett. They will provide you with the care and planning you need at such a time. And now there are 2 locations for Clay Barnett Funeral Home. 1401 West Dixon Boulevard in Shelby, and a new location at 303 Pfeiffer Road in Kings Mountain.
It's that time of the year again to start thinking about Christmas. Yes, it's just around the corner. And a good place to start is the Bargain Station brand name outlet. They've got something for everyone on your gift list. From jewelry and watches to sporting goods, including golf clubs. Also luggage and plenty of housewares, even bicycles. And they have toys for Christmas too. The Bargain Station name brand outlet. 4400 East Dixon Boulevard in Shelby, next to Honda Motorcycles. Open Tuesday through Friday, 9:30 till 6. Saturdays, 9 a.m. till 2 p.m.
Hi, this is Woody Durham for Mark Dedman's Carolina Trophies in Shelby. Through the years, I've seen a lot of trophies and plaques, and none appear nicer than those which come from Mark Dedman's Carolina Trophies. Their guarantee is not just a guarantee, but a promise for courteous service, the absolute lowest price, quality products, on-time delivery, and most of all, your satisfaction. Awards for all occasions, plus rubber stamps and engraving. That's Mark Dedman's Carolina Trophies in Shelby.
For the last 19 years here on the radio, we've been telling you about Kibo's Quick Stop in Shelby. Kibo's was opened 19 years ago by Keith Yearwood, and Keith and the gang invite you into Kibo's for delicious Hunt Brothers pizza, good for tailgating and for those upcoming holiday parties. Also, there are snack items such as soft drinks, candy, chips, and pastries, plus packaged and hand-dipped ice cream, milk, bread, tobacco products, motor oil, and don't forget to fill that vehicle up with gas. Kibo's, Highway 226 North at the Zion Church Road intersection, Shelby. For over 40 years, the Barnett family has been serving delicious food. From yesterday's Barnett's Beehive to today's Barnett's Restaurant. Hamburgers, including the Queen Bee, hot dogs, pork chop sandwiches, fried chicken, and fish, plus meat entrees, vegetables, including the best potato wedges in town, and more. Barnett's Restaurant is open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday. Call-ins are welcome at 482-3746. And Barnett's wishes Burns, Crest, and Shelby good luck in the playoffs. Barnett's Restaurant, Highway 180 North, Shelby.
You'll find it with Airgas National Welders, offering total support to the metalworking and fabrication industries with a full range of products and services. You'll find gas equipment, arc equipment, filler metals, safety equipment, construction supplies, welding machines, generators, and more from top industry leaders such as Miller Electric, Lincoln Electric, Hypertherm, Victor, Milwaukee, Metabo, and Carhartt. For more information or to find the store nearest you, call 1-800-943-0333 or visit their website at airgas.com.
It's time to order your Broad River baked ham or spiral sliced honey spice glazed ham from Oris Supermarket and Broad River Hams in Shelby. They're ready to eat, no baking, and now get $5 off a half or whole ham. And Oris Supermarket and Broad River Hams has church fruit and candies for those treat bags. And get your fresh select dipped oysters from the Steak Place, Oris Supermarket and Broad River Hams, 1026 East Marion Street, Shelby.
There's never been a better time to switch to Nationwide and save. For auto, home, life, or business insurance, call Heather, Gary, Mark, or Gaylord at the Gaylord Brawley Nationwide Insurance Agency in Shelby. You can trust Nationwide, serving North Carolina customers since 1928 and number one for 20 straight years. The Gaylord Brawley Nationwide Insurance Agency, 1235 Falston Road in Shelby. Call 704-484-2680.
Gifts for Dad and everyone else on your Christmas shopping list can be found at Cleveland Lumber Company in Shelby. You'll find power tools by Porter Cable and Makita, case knives and knives by Carhartt. See the full line of Stanley power tools. And Cleveland Lumber Company can help you keep warm this winter with the new Echo SunTech heater. Choose the builder's choice. That's Cleveland Lumber Company, 211 Airwood Street in Shelby. Open 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Remember the name, Cleveland Lumber Company. Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
Hey, and welcome back to the Witherspoon Insurance pregame show. I am Sam Davis, along with Terry Reinhardt, bringing you all the information that you need to know about tonight's ball games. Starting off in the 3AA bracket, we've got Crest High School, as we mentioned, with a great pedigree. Won state titles in 94, 96, 2003, 2004. Have been there more recently in 2010 and 2011. But tonight's opponent, Northern Guilford, comes in having won the last three 3AA state championships and trying to make it 4 in a row. And these two opponents are familiar with each other, Terry.
Yes, they are. They've played each other twice now in the state championships. This is a Northern Guilford team that comes into this game 78-8. But if you take the two forfeits away that they really won on the field, they would be 80-6 as an all-time varsity football team.
And how many have been? I mean, they've been undefeated, other than the forfeits this year, last year, and the year before, all undefeated.
Well, yes, they would have been. Now, you know,
and then the year before that, they only lost one early.
Lost one, yeah. In 2011, they went 14-1. 2012, 15-0. This year, 13-2.
So they've lost 8 games in the history of the school. They have 3 straight titles in their case, which is phenomenal. But a first-year school comes out of the bracket, and the second year they win a state title.
Yeah.
But now the grumbling I've been hearing amongst the fan bases is, well, if you had open enrollment like Guilford County does, then you would be winning. I mean, if all the Crest and Shelby and Burns and Kings Mountain kids could choose which high school they wanted to go to, they would, you know, let's say they all went to one school, the really good players. Well, of course that team would be really good.
Well, I mean, if I'm sending it back, and I guess I'm going to go on the alternative on that, because Southeast Guilford was pretty decent. Northeast Guilford was pretty decent. I mean, you know, some of these other teams that has been in the playoffs this year.
That's true.
You know, so you can't really say all the kids are going to one place, because
well, Northwest Guilford was 12-2, so
yeah. I mean, you know,
it's hard to say without being actually there to know where these kids came from. But Roscoe, I want to say Roscoe Tanner, but I don't know if that's correct. But Johnny Roscoe, maybe that was
Yes,
his name,
Johnny
the former
Roscoe.
coach at Northern Guilford. I give that guy a lot of credit. He has set up a program there when he took over in the beginning, and he put together something special up there because they are the most well-coached, disciplined team that I had seen in many years of watching high school football. I mean, they came down there with smaller guys, not as fast as Crest in the 2010 state championship. Now, they won it by 1 point. It was a battle to the very end, and it's just the way it turned out. But the next year, we thought, well, okay, this is our year. They crushed us because they were faster to the ball. They were stronger than Crest. They were a better football team, top to bottom. And it looked like they were doing it with less athletes than Crest had. But it's just amazing.
Well, when I sit back and Johnny Roscoe, like I said, Brian Thomas has taken over his first year. Sometimes when you have a new coach, a lot of people sit back and say, okay, his first year is going to be good because we've seen that happen a lot, even in the NFL.
Right, you inherit talent.
Exactly, And some people say, well, this Northern Guilford team is not as good as what we have seen in the past. Maybe not, but, if you go by on field, they would be undefeated, but they do have 2 losses with ineligible players. But this year, they have won some tough games, as you've got on here. They defeated Reedsville 34-33. And a lot of times people look back and say, well, Crest pretty much handled Shelby. Lincoln could have beat Reedsville last week. You start thinking of stuff like that, and whether that'll make a difference tonight, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Me neither, because Northern Guilford comes in here. Their defense is as good as any, and with Crest, pretty much a running team, they're going to try to stop that run.
Yeah. And Northern Guilford, again, comes in. They've been tested. That's one thing we've noticed, that in some of the teams moving through the brackets, they catch a break due to an upset or a lower-seeded team winning, and they get to catch them after a big week with less records. Northern Guilford in the playoff have played a 7-5. They beat Central Cabarrus, who was finished 11-2, and they beat Weddington, who finished 11-3. So they've been tested the last 2 weeks. And they played a Reedsville team that finished the season 12-2 and are in the 2A Western Finals. They beat an Eastern Alamance team that was 10-4 and a Western Alamance team that was 11-2. And they did beat Northwest Guilford, who was 12-2. They did end up giving that one back later due to the forfeits that they had. And let's go ahead and cover the forfeits. Those forfeits were not because they had ineligible players or recruiting or anything. It was because the coaching staff had a clerical error. They brought up too many kids from the JVs on the 8-quarter rule. So you're only allowed 12 kids during a football season. 12 different kids are allowed to come up and play so many quarters. Eight actually. But in this case, they apparently made a clerical error. They brought a 13th kid up and let that kid stand on the sideline, and that's all it took.
It counts.
So they ended up they caught it themselves. They self-reported. They forfeited those 2 games, which was one non-conference game and a conference game against Williams, I believe. So they ended up with 1 loss in their conference, but by virtue of beating the other team in their conference, they won the number 1 seed out of their conference.
And pretty much, if you look at that, this might have got Crest a home field advantage tonight, because if you take those 2 away, Crest might have been heading there.
Well, that's true, and it would have been a coin flip. It would have been a coin flip, actually. But Northern Guilford comes in with a new running back this year. Everybody familiar with the Crest program and Northern Guilford are familiar with T.J. Logan. This kid was a beast the last 3 years, especially last year. He is now a starting running back for the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. It kind of shows you how strong that kid was. Well, we've heard about the new kid coming along at Northern Guilford that's supposed to be as good as T.J. Logan. His name is C.J. Ledford. He's a sophomore running back. He's averaging 115 yards a game, and he seems to be another in that same mold, very quick, very shifty running back.
Yeah, and their quarterback, Austin Coltrane, is another good guy that can go through the air. Sam, I'm going to ask you a question. You've seen Crest play all year. What does Crest have to do tonight to defeat a Northern Guilford team that, I mean, I know they're pumped because they've been waiting for this. To me, if all the fans that I talk to say that they've been waiting to get back at Northern Guilford, and they don't think this Northern Guilford team is as strong as what they've had in the past.
True.
What does Crest have to do tonight to defeat them?
Crest has to be very balanced and very disciplined on defense. Crest is very quick on defense. Their defensive front are not huge, but they're very quick. They're very physical. Crest is a very physical defense. They've took a beaten all year long in the defensive backfield. This team, Northern Guilford, wants to run the ball. They can throw and will throw some, but they want to run the ball. Crest has had a lot of success in the last several weeks of slowing down and stopping the running game. They're more of a bend but don't break type defense now. They'll give up some yardage down the field, but eventually they make the play they need to stop the drive and either hold you to a field goal attempt or a punt. Northern Guilford's going to come in quick. They're gonna mix it up with the run. They're gonna run the Ledford kid. Austin Coltrane, their quarterback, is a senior. He's averaging 132 yards a game passing. He's also a third-year quarterback. He was a quarterback, also shared time with that kid in 2010 and 11. 2011, he shared time at quarterback in the state championship game, and then he's the guy this year. Crest offensively has got to do what they've done all year long. And Mark Barnes said this a couple of weeks ago. We are what we are, and we're going to continue to do that. If we continue to be successful, we will win. If you stop us, we will lose. And it's plain and simple. There is no real plan B.
We've got a team, and this is what the thing that bothers me is Northern Guilford's defense has been the thing that's kept them in every game this year. They come into this game, they've only gave up 134 points over 15 games. So that's less than 10.
8.6 points a game.
That's what I'm saying. Can they stop Crest?
It's one of those things where you won't know till you actually hit the field. They're not big, but they're very quick. They know how to fight off blocks. So we'll see if they'll be able to slow the Crest offense down. Crest has been averaging about 30 points a game in the playoffs. I think their last 4 games have been 31, 38, 23, and 30. So that running game has netted some points. Plus, Crest special teams has been good to get a score here or there. The defensive front for Crest has been very active with Omar Brooks and Chris Willis, defensive linemen. Those two guys are quick, very quick, and they're not huge. They're not going to blow you off the ball, but they have this ability to disrupt plays. And that's the thing you want to see tonight is that are they able to get back there and disrupt the plays of Northern Guilford?
One of the biggest things I see that you put on your stat sheet, total yards per game. Crest, 328. Northern Guilford, 325.
Very, very even. Crest runs it. They come in averaging 272 yards on the ground and 56 yards passing. Northern Guilford more balanced at 196 on the ground, 129 passing. So total yards a game, very even. One edge that Crest might have is the kicking game. My understanding is the Northern Guilford kicker got hurt early this year, so Austin Coltrane, their quarterback, is handling the punting and the extra point duties. And they've only tried 1 or 2 field goals all year. Not many field goals this year. Maybe they've made 4. So they don't kick many field goals. Of course, with a team like that, they probably haven't had to kick many.
They haven't, and when I look back, and we always talk about special teams making a difference, and I keep going back when they played each other in 2010, special teams made a difference in that game at the very end. I missed.
Northern Guilford brought a kickoff back all the way back to midfield.
Sure did, and then in 2011, Northern Guilford was just that much better.
Well, they were that much better, and Crest came in after being beat to death against Charlotte Catholic.
Oh yes,
and their top 2 or 3 players were really hobbling going into that game, and that was a team that without Raheem Ledbetter and John, the defensive end, these guys being hobbled like they were, that did affect Crest. But again, T.J. Logan was a beast. Crest did not have one guy on their team that could keep up with him. When he ran a sweep wide, there was nothing we could do. I mean, this kid was just that fast.
And that's when I look at tonight's game, and I think special teams or whatever's going to happen is going to be the major thing.
Well, with it being a wet track, and if there is going to be some rain in the area, that will favor Crest to some degree because the receivers catching a thrown ball from a long distance, that's tough on a dry ball, let alone something that's just a little bit slick from the rain.
Well, and also when you're playing at home, you know where all the little dibbies are all over that field. I'm telling you do.
Well, what's waiting the winner of the Crest Northern Guilford game?
Crest Northern Guilford.
I got it right here at the bottom.
Yeah.
All right, the winner of tonight's game will face either Wilson Hunt or Southern Durham in the 3AA title game at BB&T Field in Winston-Salem, which at 7 o'clock. Now, let me just say, I love playing a state championship at Wake Forest. It's a smaller venue. You don't feel like the stadium has swallowed up your, at a high school game, if you've got 3,000 and they've got 3,000, that's 6,000 a lot for a high school game.
Oh, yes.
But when you put them in 60,000 seat stadium like Carolina, it just looks like a little ants crawling around. It's overwhelming. I would much rather see the state championship games moved from these big venues, NC State and Carolina, and put them at East Carolina. Smaller stadiums. Wake Forest, UNC Charlotte would be a great opportunity now to play a game.
That's one of the biggest things that I've seen lately that's been coming out. Why don't we check about where we putting all these things out? Because UNC Charlotte would be perfect, for a place to have those games at. Yeah, Panther Stadium, now you're right back into the same thing. That's too many people, that can fill that up. But, it would be in a central location to me to be at Carolina Panther Stadium. But I think a UNC Charlotte would be perfect.
Well, and there's got to be some smaller venues that would easily house the people coming to a high school championship game in the middle part of the state.
Oh, yes.
Even if I know Duke was a smaller stadium, although they quit wanting to be involved, mostly because the facilities were terrible and they wanted to do their basketball games and not have the football interfere with that. So I know there was a problem with everything. So, I know Steve Roberts, our engineer, is a big Duke fan. He's shaking his head in there saying, yeah, but it's Duke basketball.
Yeah, we know that.
Well, Northern Guilford comes into Crest tonight. This time it's not a neutral field. This time it's at the Crest Stadium. So the Crest kids have had the ability to sleep in their beds, to rest, to do their regular everyday routine, while Northern Guilford's been on the bus today for 2.5 hour ride coming down to Crest. Going to play on a wet track. The odds makers I saw online today, Simmons, this guy does mathematical picks, and he doesn't always get it right. He had Sound Point favored last week.
He did.
He has Northern Guilford as an 8-point favorite, and so we're going to see when we get there.
Well, my whole deal tonight, if you don't think it's Northern Guilford's time to win tonight, give us a holler.
Yeah, we want to hear from
one of them numbers, Cleveland County, 704-482-1390. Gaston County, 704-435-3297, or Lincoln County, 704-735-8071.
And we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back to tell you about Forest View.
Since 1986, Witherspoon Insurance Agency in Shelby has been serving families across Shelby and Cleveland County. And today, Wayne Witherspoon continues the tradition of bringing you the best insurance at the best possible price with names like The Hartford, Safeco, Progressive, National General Insurance, and Travelers. Drop by their office at 125 North Lafayette Street in Shelby and talk with one of their friendly hometown agents. Witherspoon Insurance Agency, your independent insurance agency since 1986. If you're in the market to purchase your dream home, call the no-nonsense guy in Cleveland County. Bob Webb of Homestar Financial gets straight to the point and tells you what you can do. Buying a house is the most important purchase that you will ever make, and you need someone you can trust with your mortgage. Bob has over 25 years in the mortgage business, and he's the go-to guy. He is your problem solver. Bob has the knowledge to look outside the box and find a mortgage loan that will fit your specific situation. Call Homestar Financial and talk with Bob Webb, 704-482-2588, or visit them online at homestarcarolina.com. The Roundup store in Shelby now has the new Century precast concrete fire pits. Sit around the old campfire in your backyard this winter and pick up this week's What's Up Shopper for some great December specials, including quarter-inch hardboard paneling, just $18 a sheet. Check out the wood storage buildings, and the Roundup store can help make your dream kitchen become a reality. The Roundup store, 1610 East Dixon Boulevard in Shelby. Check out the new website at roundupshelby.com.
Your number one choice for drain service in Cleveland County is Drain Cleaners of Shelby. From slow to clogged drains, to sewer odors, to moving or installing a drain, or even adding a drain, see Drain Cleaners of Shelby. With state-of-the-art inspection cameras, locating equipment, and high-pressure jetters. From residential to commercial, just call 1-800-440-CLOG for a free estimate. They'll make sure your drains are actually draining. That's Drain Cleaners of Shelby. Yes, Cleveland County, you do have a train dealer. From Kings Mountain to Polkville, from Lawndale to Bellwood, from Falston to Earl, Roland Black Heating and Air will be there for you. They're only a phone call away at 704-865-1375. In minutes, a comfort specialist will be at your door for your heating or cooling needs. Yes, it's hard to stop a train. Again, call Roland Black Heating and Cooling at 704-865-1375. Your hometown train dealer for over 36 years.
Warmth, ambience, convenience. That's the best three ways to describe the Monessen vent-free gas logs from Future Energy Company in Uptown Shelby. The Monessen vent-free gas logs are hand-painted for incredible lifelike detail, giving them a truly authentic look, and all come with a lifetime warranty. With easy installation and no venting means they can go in just about any room of your home. The Monessen vent-free gas logs from Future Energy Company, 130 West Graham Street at Uptown Shelby. Visit the website at futureenergycompany.com.
Blanton Cars is slashing down payments. We offer down payments as low as $500. We are the most experienced buy here, pay here dealer in Cleveland County. We have cars as new as 2010 models that we will finance in-house. We don't look at your past credit. Your job is your credit here. We have payment plans to fit your budget. Stop by today and let us put you in the car you deserve. Blanton Cars has 2 locations to serve you in Shelby. East Dixon Boulevard, across from Super 8 Motel, and West Dixon Boulevard, next to Meineke Mufflers.
The 20th anniversary sale is underway at Keith's Carpet and Floor Covering in Shelby. It's hard to believe, but Keith and Cindy Edwards have been bringing you the best in carpet and installation now for 20 years. Try by this week and check out their 20th anniversary carpet and floor covering specials. And, of course, you get professional installation. Congratulations on 20 big years. Keith's Carpet and Floor Covering, 1162 East Marion Street in Shelby.
Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WOHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
Hey, and welcome back to the Witherspoon Insurance pregame show. We're in here talking about Duck Dynasty, and Steve Roberts, the engineer, points at me and says, "Hey, you're back on the air."
This is where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
On cue. That's right. And Steve's like, get with it.
Sometimes life happens, and you just gotta discuss them. And Duck Dynasty is one of those things. When it comes up, you have to discuss it. Hey, Terry, we've covered the 3AA. Let's move now down to the 3A Western Finals, to the cream of Gaston County. Let me just say that.
Oh, yes.
There are teams in red and different teams that will claim that they are the best in this area, but the proof is in the pudding, and the proof is who's still playing, and it's the Forest View Jaguars.
I'm very amazed because at one part of this year, I sat back when they were getting ready to play Hunter Huss, and I said, if Hunter Huss beats them, they're going to finish 5th in that conference. And now to sit back a few weeks later and sit here and say South Point's no longer in it, and Forest View still is, and nobody else out of Gaston County's left. But look here, Forest View Jaguars.
Well, the old saying comes into play here. If it doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger. And Forest View went through a spell this year where Logan Bradley was hurt. They lost their number 1 running back early this year and had to adjust to that. They had to adjust to the period without Logan Bradley, so the coach reinstalled the eye.
He did.
And they were successful running the eye for a couple of weeks until Logan Bradley came back. And now they've got 2 offenses they can run at will and be very successful with both. And what that has done is it now allows them to match up differently. If a team's really strong at stopping the run, you throw the ball, much like Concord tonight. If they're strong at stopping the passing game, you run the eye with Mo Neal. And Mo Neal catches the ball out of the backfield. I think that losing span, those 3-game losing streak that they had during the middle of the year, has made them stronger, have made them a better team for the long haul.
You are going to face a defending runner-up, to last year to Havelock, which, this year they are lucky that Havelock is still over in that East. That you don't even have to worry about them until next week when you're going to play them in the state title probably, because I don't see them having any trouble with Eastern Wayne tonight. But on this side, it's a good battle. We saw Concord have to play South Point, where they pretty much stopped the run. Can Concord step around and do the very opposite tonight, stopping the pass? Or will Forest View step out there and be able to run the ball against them with a Mo Neal?
Well, Concord has faced variable different types of offenses all year. They're undefeated, so they've beaten those teams. That doesn't mean that those teams were good. That just means that they did have passing games, and they did beat them. But I don't think they've seen any kind of passing game like Forest View's had. Forest View comes into tonight's game with Logan Bradley with 2,889 yards, 37 touchdowns, and that's with him missing what? 2 games?
I think so.
2.5 games?
Sure did.
He averages 240 yards a game, and he's got a list of receivers. McKelty Armstrong is a senior, has 1,250 yards receiving, 19 touchdowns, and 88 catches. That's 88 over, 13 games? So that's 5, 6, 7,
14 games.
Yeah, that's 7, 8 catches a game. Mo Neal is their number 2 receiver out of the backfield. Now, this is a kid. This is where you have to watch Forest View. Just when you're covering everybody downfield and you're trying to keep an eye on Logan Bradley, because he runs the ball pretty good when he sprints out. You've got to keep an eye on him. Don't lose Mo Neal, because that's Bradley's number 2 target. He's caught 67 passes for 760 yards and 10 touchdowns.
And a sophomore.
And he's just a sophomore. We've got some really strong sophomores, underclassmen in this area.
And juniors. We do.
C.J. Bumgardner, a senior, comes in with 28 catches, 500 yards. Caleb Mills, 21 catches, 300 yards. And Isaiah Sanders, a junior, comes in with 19 catches, 276 yards. Forest View has been tested. They have played a tough schedule. They played a number 2 ranked team in the state at the time, East Lincoln 2A, and beat them when East Lincoln was at full strength, Chaz Surratt and everybody. They played a South Point team, and although they lost 34-49, they were in that game up until about the last 5-6 minutes.
Yes.
They did lose to Ashbrook 31-34, but I believe Bradley might have been hurt. I'm not positive about that one. But they did lose to Hunter Huss 20-24, but that was kind of where the team started turning things around. They beat the number 1 seed in the 3A West, Freedom, and 35-34, so they were truly tested on a close game. Freedom came in with an 11-2 record, and last week they beat 12-1 High Brighton 42-20, and laid it on them actually.
Well, the Freedom game is the one that impressed me. When they come back and defeated Freedom, because I really didn't think they was going to be able to stay in that game, but they did, and they played them after. They played all 3 of their games on the road. They was able to come back and win that game. Now, High Brighton, I kind of looked at that, and I kind of took a very different kind of approach, because I'm looking at a running team of High Brighton against a passing team of Forest View. And High Brighton had not faced any team that can throw the ball like Forest View could. And Forest View pretty much dominated that game. And I had that one figured pretty well. But the Freedom game is the one that really surprised me for them winning that game. Freedom to me is like a Concord team. Concord comes in this game, but when you look at how many points they score, Concord has defeated Central Cabarrus 63-50, so they can score points with you. So are we going to see one of them games tonight in the 40s or 50s, or will we see one of them games where the defense finally steps up and maybe Concord's defense is a little bit better than what we really thought?
Well, I think the weather really, really plays into this game, as we talked about. Passing game might be slowed a little bit with the wet track, with the wet balls, and if that's the case and Concord and Forest View go out there and try to run it at each other, I really think Rocky Reed, the running back for Concord, this kid's got 3,000 yards rushing. He's going to get his. Yes. You know that. Mm-hmm. Forest View will not be able to stop that kid. So they're going to get theirs. They're going to score 25, 30, 35 points, Concord will, against Forest View. Forest View's only chance is to stay with them and try to outscore them in a shootout, and a wet ball is going to make it very difficult for Forest View.
I believe so, and that's what I'm looking for. To me, a very evenly, and I know we're looking at Concord as being undefeated, but to me, a very evenly matched two squads coming into this game.
Yeah, and it's one of those. That's why we play them.
Yes, I mean,
Hey, it happens. We saw it happen last week. Concord beat which many felt like was an unbeatable South Point team.
Yes.
And if you don't believe me, ask a South Point fan. But everybody in this area thought South Point was going to go to the state championship. Now, beating Havelock is a whole nother story. But Concord stepped up there and shut them down. I mean, shut South Point down, only 120 yards rushing, something like that. But it's just amazing.
My question for you, whoever comes out of this game, and I know Havelock has to beat Eastern Wayne, you know, and that's why you play the game, because you got to
Right.
go out on the field. It could happen that Havelock gets beat tonight. I don't see it happening, but can either one of these teams face up against a Havelock?
Based on what I've seen so far, I feel like Concord can. With Rocky Reed and their defense. This is coming from somebody that knows zero about Havelock's offense. I don't know if they throw the ball or if they run the ball. I have no idea. But based on what Concord did last week against South Point and being state runner-ups last year to Havelock, I feel like they've got a quarterback that can throw adequately. They've got a running back in Rocky Reed that's going to get his yards, 200 yards a game on average, and they have a defense built to stop the run. So what that tells me is, yes, Concord, if they make it to the championship game, I'm not a betting man, but I would say they would absolutely have an opportunity to beat Havelock.
Well, Sam, I know in between our breaks we were standing here talking about, and we mentioned about teams going to the state championship. And when you match up a West against the East, you know, a lot of times you don't see these teams. You don't know how they match up, and you know, and all of a sudden you'll have. Say great wide receivers on your outside, but then all of a sudden when they match up against an Eastern team that has the same talent, have same corners, they can keep up with them, the whole game changes.
Well, this is why high school polls are absolutely positively useless.
Yes, I agree.
You rank the top 10 teams in the state in 3A and tell me that's the ranking, absolutely useless, because you cannot tell the level of talent from one end of the state to the other. You can have a team coming from Union County that's 13-0 that think they are the baddest thing they've ever seen, but then they'll come to a Cleveland or Gaston County and get waxed because the level of talent at that given time is better in this area. And we've seen teams from this area go down to the state and lose when we didn't think they could ever lose. It happens.
Well, the year that Lincoln went and played Clinton, and I go back to that game a million times. Well, to me, Lincoln had the best outside guys that you could ever have. But when they met Clinton and Clinton matched up man for man with them, I mean, it was a total different game, and that's all they had to run. It was man-to-man on the outside, and them guys were as good as athletes as what Lincoln had stuck out there on the field.
Well, Concord is at home again. They've been fortunate
Yes.
to make it all the way through the Western Finals, playing home games. Forest View is going to take their passing game and running game and 10-3 record, and they're going to travel over to Concord and take on those Spiders and give them their best shot. And Terry, it could end up being a 21-20 game, or it could be a 49-48 game, and I wouldn't be shocked either way.
Well, one thing we have not mentioned, Concord does have a running back. His name's Rocky Reed, that junior, and he averages 210.9 yards a game.
And he's just 47 yards away from 3,000 yards rushing and has scored 38 touchdowns.
Yes.
So, now, again, don't get too excited because the level of football over on that part of Charlotte might be down. We've seen A.L. Brown, who is a big rival of Concord. They finished 7-5 this year. West Rowan in that conference finished 6-6.
Yes.
So it could be that Concord is the anomaly coming out of that conference, and they are the cat's meow, as some would say. Or it could be that they got lucky last week and just happened to match up well against a South Point team.
Well, tonight we'll find out. Can you
And that,
match
my
up with
friend,
the
is
passing?
why they play them. So
Exactly.
that's all we got to talk about on the Forest View Concord game. We're going to take another break right here, and we're going to come back and break down the Shelby game and finish up the program. Stick around.
Since 1986, Witherspoon Insurance Agency in Shelby has been serving families across Shelby and Cleveland County. And today, Wayne Witherspoon continues the tradition of bringing you the best insurance at the best possible price with names like the Hartford, Safeco, Progressive, National General Insurance, and Travelers. Drop by their office at 125 North Lafayette Street in Shelby and talk with one of their friendly hometown agents. Witherspoon Insurance Agency, your independent insurance agency since 1986. Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
Norris Merchandise's beautiful furniture with bedroom, living room, and dining room furniture by the famous brands. Norris Merchandise's hardware, everything from nuts and bolts to lawnmower blades. Norris Merchandise's Carhartt clothing, featuring Carhartt workwear, casual wear, and rugged outdoor wear. And Norris Merchandise is an archery shop with a complete line of archery equipment and accessories. That's Norris Merchandise, 2011 South Lafayette Street, Shelby, online at norrismerchandise.com or on Facebook.
Where are you eating breakfast today? Have you tried the Hub Cafe located inside Medical Arts Pharmacy? The Hub opens at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. on Saturday, serving an old-fashioned country breakfast at affordable prices. You'll find homemade biscuits, bacon, country sausage, country ham, liver mush, eggs, omelets, all cooked to order on the grill. Call 487-0511 or come on into the Hub Cafe for a delicious country breakfast located inside Medical Arts Pharmacy, 108 Grover Street, Shelby.
The Round Man, Okie Knipe, invites you into Okie's Tire and Service Center for all your tire and auto service needs. Okie gives you the best value in tires, both new and used tires, and they'll mount and balance your tires free. Come into Okie's Service Center for all your service needs, including radiator flush, brakes, tune-ups, oil changes, and state inspections. Serving Cleveland County since 1978. That's right, over 35 years. Okie's Tire and Service Center, 800 West Warren Street in Shelby. Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
And welcome back to the Witherspoon Insurance pregame show. I am Sam Davis along with Terry Reinhart. Intern Dakota and our Engineer of the Year, Steve Roberts, keeping us on the air safe and sound. We want to thank all these folks.
They've got that trophies in there that they won for being Engineer of the Year and our Intern of the Year.
Intern of the Year and Engineer of the Year.
They
and
sure
we are
do.
fortunate enough to have these guys.
I'm
Look,
telling you.
he's showing me
See
the trophy.
there? That's what I'm talking
I wish we could
about.
turn the camera to
There
that
it
trophy.
is.
That is quite fancy. The Heisman has nothing on that trophy.
No, that's right.
Hey, we've got a caller on the line. Before we get into the Shelby Golden Lions Reedsville Rams game, let's take this caller and find out what his thoughts are on the night. Hello, Lewis.
Hey guys,
Hey.
this is Lewis.
Yes, sir, Lewis. What you got going on tonight, sir?
Well, I just gonna comment on Sam using that big old word anomaly. I thought that was pretty good. That Sam, you're getting better, son. That was good.
That's my thesaurus word of the day.
I know how that is. That's like Dennis using chicanery the other night.
Chicanery. Yeah, I haven't heard that one
Chicanery.
used since the 40s. Well, Dennis, that would make sense then. Dennis using it.
That's true.
Well,
I'll tell you what, we got some good games going on tonight, and Forest View Concord. I tell you, I wouldn't count Forest View out. I'm like Terry. They win when they ain't supposed to.
Well, the game that really got me was the one against Freedom that I really, really kind of sat back and said, well, maybe this Forest View teams is coming back to be something I didn't think they could be. That was the game that got me by surprise.
I'm the same way, Terry. I just think that they've proven that they can get the job done. Of course, and then again, Concord beat South Point, and I didn't think anybody's going to beat South Point. So, who knows? It's high school football, and that's why you get out there and play them.
That's absolutely true. That's why you play them, because of the Concord South Point game last week. If it was settled in the papers and amongst the fans, then South Point wins it hands down. But that's why they play them.
That's exactly right.
Well, now which game?
Well, I'll tell you, fellas, you do what?
Which game are you going to listen to tonight?
Well, I tell you what, I just told Steve I think I might come up there. My computer, for whatever reason, I can't get that KTC broadcasting to come on my computer. I don't know what's wrong. But anyhow, I told Steve I think I'm coming up there and listening to the Shelby game with him.
Well, they've got a saying for that, Lewis. It's called operator error, and you just need somebody. You need somebody under 40 that can help you.
That's exactly right. That's what my sons keep telling me.
Yeah, I hear you. And is it not amazing?
Hey, my two sons refer to me as technically challenged.
Technically challenged. Well, I understand that.
And I am.
Well, Lewis, it's amazing.
Well,
in our
guys,
lifetime.
listen, I'll holler at you later, Terry. We'll see you after a while. Y'all doing a good job.
Thank you.
Keep it going. I'm listening and enjoying it.
All righty then. Thank you,
Have
Lewis
a good day,
Carpenter.
Lewis.
And don't forget, Lewis Carpenter, along with Tom Centofanti and Dennis Davis and our own Terry Reinhardt, will be bringing you all the post-game action here on the Marburger Dodge post-game show.
Well, I will say one thing. It was when Lewis was on there and he was talking. You know, it's amazing how our life has become because Dakota over here, these things that I'm not going to be able to do that Dakota could jump right on and do in a second. You know, the younger generation knows more about technology now than us older guys do or ever even thought about knowing.
Well, they deal with it in middle school on through, where
yes.
we're sitting there fumbling, trying to figure it out, wondering, you know, where's the carburetor on this darn thing?
That's
But there aren't any carburetors on these darn things. So, yeah, that's just the way it goes, and that's why we need these younger people around to help us learn how to turn things on and off.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Hey, let's take a quick coverage over tonight's games. On WOHS and KTCBroadcasting.com, the Shelby Golden Lions will be traveling up to Reidsville to take on the Reidsville Rams. Jeff Jones and Brent Pasco will bring you all that action. I've got that sheet here somewhere. There it is. The other game, Forest View, is at Concord tonight on KTCBroadcasting.com. Derek Smith and Cliff will be bringing you all that action. And also Northern Guilford will be over at Crest tonight, and you can also hear that on KTCBroadcasting.com. Andy Foster, Tim Foster, and Rob Roop, sideline reporter, will bring you all of that action right here on KTCBroadcasting.com. And Terry, just briefly before we get into the Shelby Reidsville information, and we do want to let the Crest fans know that in 2 minutes, the Crest broadcast feed on KTC Broadcasting will be breaking away from our show to Andy, Tim, and Rob as they have a hour-long pregame show. They've got so much information to cover that it takes an hour. It takes an hour. So, and apparently the powers be feel like that their words are more important than mine and your words, so they get it, and they're on and we're not. So if you want to continue to listen to Terry and I, go to KTCBroadcasting.com, live in the studio, and there we will be. But Terry, in the 4AA, the Butler Mallard Creek did beat Butler earlier this year. You're a big follower of 4A football in the state, being an Independence fan. Do you feel like Butler has an opportunity to sneak back up on them here the second time around?
Well, this will be Mallard Creek's third chance at Butler. They've lost to them the last 2 years, been knocked out of this thing by Butler, and here's your opportunity again. Again, Butler, you're defending champions from last year. Mallard Creek, you're trying to make a stand. You average 50 points a game. Only 3 out of the last 14 points have scored more than 13 points again against them, but this is Butler. And I think, you know, when you want to be, like we always talk, when you want to be the big dog, you got to beat the big dog, and this is their chance.
Well, Independence for so many years was the big dog. Well,
yes.
Before them, Richmond County, then Independence, then Butler.
Yep.
Butler was on the edge towards the decline of the Independence years. Then Tommy Knotts leaves town, and Butler is now the big dog for the last several years. And now here Mallard Creek's rising up. I think their quarterback from last year is at NC State. Is that right? No, Carolina.
He's at Carolina.
He's at Carolina.
Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, they've got some players coming through Mallard Creek right now, and Butler trying to hang on to that dominating personality they've had the last 5 or 6 years, and Mallard Creek trying to be the new guy on the block and win the state.
Well, this is a team Mallard Creek comes in. They have 4 shutouts on the year, and 5 of their other opponents have scored less than a touchdown against them. So, you know, it's going to be one of them things. Butler's offense can they play with Mallard Creek's defense?
Well, Butler's lost 3 this year, and one of those losses to Mallard Creek
yes.
earlier this year. So the winner of that game will travel over to North Carolina State's Carter Finley Stadium next Saturday at 7 o'clock to take on the Wake Forest Middle Creek winner. Now, down in the 4A ranks, the West Finals is going to be number 4 seed Charlotte Catholic, who comes in with a 12-2 record, taking on Dudley, who comes in with a 13-0 record. They're the number 2 seed. The Crest fans familiar with Dudley as they beat them in the state championships several years ago. And maybe did they lose one to them? I can't remember if it was Dudley or Parkland that beat them one year in the state finals. Not important, but in this game, Charlotte Catholic comes in. They're going to do what they do, much like South Point. They're going to run that wing tee stuff. They're going to pass more out of it. They're going to be well coached, well disciplined, and Dudley's going to come in probably with a lot more athletes, more high flying type of offense. Are you have any information on the Dudley Catholic?
Well, here we go. Greensboro Dudley comes in. They only give up 6.9 points per game, led by linebacker Chris Register, and he's committed to Clemson to go play there. But, I mean, it's the same thing. You got a running team with Elijah Hood and them going against a Greensboro Dudley team. That's their defense. Same way with the Butler Mallard Creek. You got the same thing here. Charlotte Catholic's offense against a defense from Dudley that does not give up many points a game. Charlotte Catholic is the 8th semifinal appearance in the last 10 years for them. And can they be in this game? I think this is another even matchup for us tonight.
Well, a great game on the agenda there with Charlotte Catholic over at Dudley, and then the champions taking on Greenville Rose or Scotland, who is the Mac Daddy right now, defending champion Scotland, number 1 seed out of the East, 14-0 on the year, beat Richmond earlier this year, and so the winner of the Catholic-Dudley game have their hands full with the Scotland coming.
Well, I mean, you're looking on the east side, and we mentioned that 4AA. That was a number 12 Wake Forest team that goes play Middle Creek. Up here in the 4A, you got a number 11 team, a J.H. Rose, that's going to play the number 1 Scotland County. So, you know, give these other 2 squads, Wake Forest and Rose, a lot of credit for being all the way to the finals.
Oh, absolutely. You have to beat good teams to get there. Well, the winner of the 4A West and East will meet next Saturday at Carter Finley Stadium, also at 3 o'clock. So the 4A crowd is going to get to see the 4A game at 3 p.m. and the 4AA game at 7 p.m. So that's great that they're both there at the same venue.
Oh, yes.
So you can go early, catch both games, and that's just, to me, is awesome. Well, we've talked about the 3AA and the 3A. Let's jump down to the 2A, and I have a question for you. Monroe, the number 2 seed, beat East Lincoln last week. I would have bet my money, and if I was a betting man, I would have bet on East Lincoln based on what they'd done all year. They were the defending 2AA champions. Chaz Surratt had a phenomenal year. And then Monroe went down there and took care of business.
Well, when I sat back last week, I did the same thing, Sam. I wrote East Lincoln. Didn't even cross my mind. I said they'll walk down to Monroe and they'll win this game going away. But after I've dadgum get on, and I'm going to tell people, if you ever want to see a hit, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way.
No.
But the Union County hit of the year was the kid from Monroe hitting Chaz Surratt on a play. And all you have to do is put on Chaz Surratt versus Monroe, and it'll pop up, and you can watch it.
Go to YouTube. You can see that hit. And
I'm
honestly,
tell you
folks,
what,
it's a snot bubble hit.
Yes. I mean, he took him out. And, you know, if the whole game was played that way, you know, East Lincoln never was in it. I mean, you know, even when Mike Bias come out and says we was never in the game, you know, because they jumped out 28-0 and breezed from there. But the Monroe team, this is a team that has defeated Parkwood before, beat them pretty bad at the start of the year, and here they are again, getting ready to place them again. Parkwood, I give hands off. They're a number 16 seed. I don't know who has done whatever down there, but the number one thing they have done is a Parkwood team that has recently, and I would say in the last few games, playing defense. I mean, you know, they got blown out by Forest Hills, and then they held Forest Hills to 7 points.
Right, exactly.
You know, and it's amazing to me of how a team has switched, just like turning the knob from hot to heat, you know. But, and then flip it over to cold.
Well,
you know.
And last week, Parkwood holds Hunter Huss and Carry On Moore to 14 points in their 24-14 win. Monroe wins over East Lincoln 34-18 after being out 28-0. So the West comes down to Parkwood and Monroe, crosstown rivals. Parkwood comes in 8-6, Monroe 12-2. The winner of that game will take on the winner of Washington and T.W. Andrews.
Yes, they do, and I hear a lot, and this is coming from the East, and like I said, I've never seen them, but a lot of people are talking about Washington. I know they got to get by High Point Andrews tonight to make it to the championship, but a lot of people have high praise for the Washington team coming in at 12-2.
Well, the winner of those two East and West games in the 2AA bracket will travel to UNC's Kenan Stadium next Friday. This is the only Friday game in the state championship series. 7:30 at Kenan Stadium Friday night. The Class 1A, West Montgomery, Swain, Wallace, Rose Hill, Kenan. Now, one thing I will say about the 1A and the 1AA, Terry, these guys have followed the template, the blueprint. You've got in the 1A 4 number 1 seeds playing each other, and in the 1AA you've got 3 number 1s and a 2.
Oh yes.
So I mean, this you don't see this in any kind of tournaments anymore. Even the NCAA basketball, there's always some Cinderella sneaking around, but not in the 1A class.
Well, you know, they still got the pods here, and the pods come out the way it was supposed to come out. If you look at who's playing who. In the 1A East, Lejeune goes to play Plymouth. And like we said at the start of the show, Plymouth has the second longest winning streak in North Carolina of 26 games. They are the defending 2012 champions. They beat Murphy last year 20-15, and you know, they get by tonight. They'll be playing again next week. But on the other end, in the West, it's Albemarle against Murphy. I think this is a great matchup. Albemarle, a team that really got plummeted at the start of the year by a few teams, but they have bounced back because they lost huge games at the start of the year and got beat pretty bad. But what a turnaround for them. They're 11-3 going against Murphy. And like I said, David Gentry, second active coach with wins at 344 and 172 losses coming into this game.
Well, both the 1A and the 1AA championships will be held next Saturday at Wake Forest University.
Yeah, and they could have a rematch, Plymouth against Murphy.
They played last year?
They did.
Oh, all right.
Plymouth won 20-15.
Okay, well, Albemarle comes in at 11-3 this year against Murphy, and Albemarle is one of those teams with a lot of tradition, a lot of history, and even though they have 3 losses without actually researching it, I would guess those were probably against larger schools.
Oh, yes.
But both those games will be held at Wake Forest University Saturday at 11 a.m. The 1A finals will be held, and at 3 p.m. the 1AA finals will be held between the East and the West. And as we mentioned earlier, the 3AA finals will be at Wake Forest BB&T Field at 7 p.m. So that's our brackets leading up to this tonight and possibly on into next week. And we just want to let a programming note: if Shelby or Crest or Forest View wins, we will be back next week.
Yes.
And Mr. Kevin Hastings is in the room. We can go ahead and make the announcement. If Shelby or Crest or Forest View win, there will be a Witherspoon Insurance pregame show next week. Will it be on Friday night?
He's stunned.
And he's stunned. We're going to talk about that during the break, so we'll have you an answer when we get back.
Yeah.
So stick around for the final segment.
Since 1986, Witherspoon Insurance Agency in Shelby has been serving families across Shelby and Cleveland County. And today, Wayne Witherspoon continues the tradition of bringing you the best insurance at the best possible price with names like the Hartford, Safeco, Progressive, National General Insurance, and Travelers. Drop by their office at 125 North Lafayette Street in Shelby and talk with one of their friendly hometown agents. Witherspoon Insurance Agency, your independent insurance agency since 1986. Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at ktcbroadcasting.com.
S&M Sports Shop is now your dealer for Under Armour sports apparel in Cleveland County. Come by and see the selection of Under Armour shirts, shorts, shoes, socks, and sunglasses. The team at S&M, Mike, Suzanne, Luke, Shannon, Dale, Ken, Darren, Dennis, and Charlie, is now your team outfitter for all local schools in whatever sport you play. They have leather jackets for all local high schools. Plus, S&M is your headquarters for Oakley Sunglasses. For all your athletic needs, go to S&M Sports Shop, located at 707 South Lafayette Street in Shelby. When accidents happen, it's reassuring to know that quick expert care is nearby. Carolina's Healthcare Urgent Care Shelby is now open and is staffed with experienced physicians, mid-level providers, nurses, and support personnel equipped with on-site laboratory and x-ray services. So keep our new location and contact information close by for immediate access to the region's preferred healthcare and largest physicians network. Carolina's Healthcare Urgent Care, 1010 East Dixon Boulevard, Shelby.
Shelby Savings Bank.
It's just better here.
With local decisions,
Better.
flexibility,
Better.
and knowing how to treat people.
It's just better. Better.
It's just better here.
We're here to help our neighbors do better.
It's just better here.
With our best deal mortgage guarantee.
It's just better. Better. Better.
Better here. Great products.
It's just better here.
And 2 convenient locations.
It's just
better here. Now more than ever, Shelby Savings Bank. It's just better here. Member FDIC.
For many families like mine, Alston Bridges Barbecue is a tradition. We grew up with it. Like my brother, he went to Raleigh to school back in 1968, still lives there. My sister moved to California in 1983, still lives there. But when either one comes back to Shelby, they want to go to Alston's for barbecue. You don't get this good barbecue anywhere else in the state or country. Barbecue pork, beef, chicken, slaw, hush puppies, fries, beans, hot dogs, and tea. The best. It's a tradition. Alston Bridges Barbecue, 620 Grover Street, right here in Shelby.
Since 1900, the Stamey Funeral Home in Fallston has been serving the families of our area with the finest in funeral service. In 1998, the Tysinger family began to serve the families of the Cherryville community, and today are a proud member of that community, providing services with dignity and respect. Caring for your family like our own, that's their slogan. Come talk with manager Pete Kraft about the services they provide at the Stamey Cherryville Funeral Home, 405 North Dixie Street in Cherryville. Today's high school football broadcast is being brought to you in part by your local Jack in the Box. Visit your nearest Jack in the Box anytime, 24 hours a day. The dining room is open till midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and 24 hours on Friday and Saturday. And of course, the drive-thru is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it's Jack in the Box, 3618 East Franklin Boulevard in Gastonia, 455 Earl Road in Shelby, and 102 College View Road in Dallas.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Nissan. Those are the powerhouse of vehicles you'll find at Marburger in Shelby. Plus quality pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. And of course, a service department that is second to no one. So when you're in need of another vehicle, see the friendly staff at Marburger. Marburger, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Nissan. 1310 East Dixon Boulevard in Shelby. Proud supporters of our local school athletic teams.
Where are you headed after the big game? To Newt's on the Court Square in Uptown Shelby. Newt's will be open till midnight after the high school football games this season. Come out and celebrate on Friday nights at Newt's. They feature a $5 burger every day. And on Wednesday, all burgers, sandwiches, and wraps are just $5. Newt's features all Angus beef or build your own salad. For after the game or just about any time, it's Newt's on the Court Square in Uptown Shelby. Open 7 days a week until midnight on football Friday nights. Like us on Facebook for our daily specials. Your sports leader is Big O Country, 1390 AM WOHS in Shelby, 1590 AM WCSL, Cherryville, Gastonia, 1050 AM WLON Lincoln, and online at KGCBroadcasting.com.
And we're back to the Witherspoon Insurance pregame show. Sam Davis, Terry Reinhardt in the final segment. And Terry, there's more than football going on KTC Broadcasting tonight.
Yes, they are. A lot of teams that are done now with their football have all switched over to basketball. And what a different sport. If you go from playing football into a running sport, they're constantly running into basketball. I mean, it's a lot of different muscles and everything used in your body. And it takes the kids, and I know a lot of times this is awful quick, a lot of kids that are done on a Friday will jump over and they'll be right into basketball by that Monday. And, it's a whole different aspect of a game.
And you don't see many offensive linemen in football playing basketball.
No, you don't.
Although I will say that one of the better basketball players that came through Crest over the years was Brandon Spikes, a linebacker. This kid could play the post. I mean, 6'4", 6'4", somewhere along in there, 6'3".
Well, it's a big, wide body.
Yeah, big, wide body, yeah. And actually, his senior year, Crest made their only appearance in a North Carolina High School Athletic Association championship game. They went to the state finals that year with Brandon Spikes and some of those and lost a close game.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, Lincoln had the same thing, when they had Briggs, because Briggs played on the state championship football team, and then they went into the finals in basketball the same year, when he was there.
On KTC broadcast tonight over on WCSL, you can hear on 1590 AM, Cherryville will be traveling over to North Gaston to play basketball, and it will also be on KTCBroadcasting.com. Do they do video in these games? I guess they do. And also on WLON 1050 AM, Lincolnton travels to North Lincoln for a basketball game tonight. So
Rick Mitchell and Jason Barber will be doing that game.
And so we've got 3 football Western Final games tonight and 2 basketball games.
Tell me, Fiona, who's having a big tire?
And let's get into our last game of the evening. Last but not least, this is the game that the purists of football have got to be just mouths drooling. Number 6 seed Shelby Golden Lions come in at 10-4, and they'll go over to Reedsville to take on the number 4 seed Reedsville Rams, who are 12-2. And Terry, you need a calculator to add up all the championships these guys have played.
Well, when they sit back and they say Reedsville's got 18 state title, Shelby says they've got 11. And then when you go to all-time wins, Shelby was 724, Reedsville 687, over 1,400 wins amongst these two teams in football.
And they've been around a long time, and they've won a lot of games. And I was just looking at something online. Reedsville's won in the last 10 or 11 years 5 state championships.
Yes, they have. And the series between these teams is 1-1. Shelby won the state title in 2005. Reedsville won it in 2007.
So all those years of excellence, they've only faced each other twice. Over the years. That's amazing. So I wonder who's ducking who.
Yeah, that's I don't blame them.
No more ducking tonight as Reedsville and Shelby will meet on the field. Shelby comes in with started out the year as a pass-happy gunslinger type attitude. Lance Ware has now settled in after the loss to Crest earlier this year. Last game of the regular season. Lost that game 31-14 to Crest, and I think Lance Ware had a epiphany. Said, we got to be able to run the ball a little better. So at that point, Raekwon Washington, their senior running back, who has over 1,000 yards, started getting more healthy, and they had developed Jacavis Brooks.
Yes.
So now they've got a 2-prong attack. R.J. George runs the ball pretty well for a big, thick kid when you least expect it. So now they've got a passing attack and a running attack, and actually last week in their win against North Rowan, who was a beast, 13-0 at the time, Shelby ran the ball. Didn't throw but for like 100-and-something yards.
Well, Shelby, and we've all sat back because the game that got me looking at Shelby this year was the South Point game. Because when they went down there and played at Belmont, this was a Shelby team that could have beat South Point on that night. And they kind of faltered there at the end, and which a lot of people do, and then all of a sudden South Point scores a couple and they go up on to win the game. But that was the game, and we always knew from last year coming into this year, R.J. George.
Right.
The kid's a player. The kid's he's only a junior, so he's going to be back again next year for them.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at the roster, their top receivers are underclassmen, so they're going to be tough next year.
But if you look at the teams that they have defeated, Polk County, and I kind of worried about that game because they only beat them like 38-21, but I thought it should have been worse. That's just me.
But Reedsville played Polk County just 2 weeks ago and only won 27-19.
They did. And then the losses, AC Reynolds, you can see that, South Point, Burns, Crest, I can understand. But then last week when they went up against North Rowan, I had millions of people telling me take North Rowan, which, and I ended up doing that like pretty much a dummy on my list. I took North Rowan. And
well,
Shelby,
it's hard not to.
Well, it was
13-0. Shelby had been nicked up this year. Although Shelby's all their losses were to larger schools. AC Reynolds 3A, South Point 3A, Burns 3A, Crest 3A.
But then when you got the North Rowan in there and Shelby stepped out there, and once Shelby got the lead, and just like some of them calls that we had last week, it was like North Rowan didn't know what to do. It's the first time they had been behind, and then all of a sudden they got into an over 10-point lead, and they had no clue of what to, counter-react to stop Shelby. And Shelby has all the athletes in the world that's going to step out there. Everybody that I'm hearing now, since Lincoln had played Reedsville so tight last week, a lot of people saying, well, Shelby destroyed Reedsville. Come on now. I mean, you got an 18-time state champion, and Coach Teague over there, he's won state titles. This is not going to be easy.
And Lincoln made a good run in the playoffs. They made
did.
it to the third round, and they lost a close game to Reedsville, and they held Reedsville to 10 points. Lincoln's strength, I think we would both agree, was their defense this year.
Yes.
So defense kept them in games. And I think you can't really say, well, Lincoln almost beat them, so Shelby will blow them out. You really don't know that until you get out there. But I feel like Shelby has learned through the course of the year, much like we mentioned about Forest View. They started out pass happy, throw. As the year went along, they discovered that, we really do need to establish a running game. And now they have a running game to go with the passing game. And if Lance Ware will just balance the attack, then he has an opportunity to play for a state championship.
He does, and the only two losses for Reedsville this year, we spoke about this at the start, Guilford County, Northwest Guilford, Northern Guilford.
Both 12-2. Yes. Northwest Guilford a 4A team, so Reedsville playing up two classes to play them, although they got waxed, and then they almost beat the three-time defending state champion Northern Guilford Nighthawks, losing 34-33 in overtime. But
well, these graphics that you've put down here, Sam,
right?
I always look at total yards per game. Shelby averaged 380, Reedsville 404. Pretty comparative.
Well, Reedsville tries to run the ball first, and they do throw some. Shelby has been this year a pass first, run second, but we feel like Shelby is morphing into a more balanced attack now based on recent games. And both averaging mid-30s, Shelby at 38 points a game, Reedsville at 35. They both punt the ball well, 36 and 32. Defenses, 21 points a game for Shelby, 15 points a game for Reedsville. So, real close all around. Real balanced, real close, both these teams. So I see a close game. But, again, just like last week, the way Shelby blew up North Rowan, I would not be surprised if Shelby hangs 40 on Reedsville tonight.
It would not surprise me. And when you look down here and you say, how is Shelby on the road? 7-1. And they're 3-3 at home. But now don't get me wrong. When you look at the three losses at home, two of them was, the Burns and Crest. And the other one was AC Reynolds, I think was the other one,
Right.
So, those are three common opponents that are pretty stout every year in football. But when you look at away, Shelby, sometimes teams play better on the road, and maybe this is a Shelby squad that's going to make that trip to Reedsville and be heading for a state championship next week.
Shelby, I did fail to mention one running back, Chad Reed, who has really stepped up when Raekwon Washington was hurt. Chad Reed carried the ball a lot, has got a lot of experience now carrying the ball. So you've got Raekwon Washington, Chad Reed, and Jaquavis Brooks all carrying the ball, doing a good job. And then with Shelby's passing attack, Antoine Wright, a sophomore, this kid's he's just pure evil. He gets out there, 830 yards, 14 touchdowns from his wide receiver position. Ralph Jolly catches more yards, 906 yards, but Antoine Wright has breakaway speed. They're both very close in yardage, but Antoine Wright, the sophomore, with 14 touchdowns, Ralph Jolly with 5. R.J. George is very good in the pocket of finding receivers. Now, there is a weakness on the Shelby team, and I will say this. If the Reedsville front line can bother R.J., he will panic. The Shelby offensive line in pass coverage tends to be a little weak sometimes, but with them running the ball more now, you can't just pin your ears back and go and blitz RJ like some teams have done it in the past. So that's why the development of the running game is so important for Shelby, and I think that's what gives them the advantage tonight.
Well, the winner of this game will face on the other side Southwest Onslow or Northeastern. And Southwest Onslow comes in that game 11-3, Northeastern 12-2. They are the number 1 seed. Southwest Onslow, though, a team that is always comparable every year in the playoffs and goes a long way. So the winner of this game will match up against them next week for a state championship.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. Reidsville comes in with a dual threat quarterback. Now, this is something when I was looking at the stats earlier, I ran across the quarterback for Reidsville, Devontae Williams. This kid's apparently Superman. He has passed for 1,700 yards and 14 touchdowns. He has rushed for 1,400 yards and 24 touchdowns. They also have another kid, Jaron Rankin, who has rushed for 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. And Jaron Rankin is also the leading tackler on the team. So these kids do double duty, but they've got some really good athletes. And here's a note I did find. Reidsville has only attempted 1 field goal all year. Remember, was it last week we talked about how North Rowan hadn't even tried but 1 field goal in 8 years? Yes. Well, Reidsville comes in tonight. They've attempted 1 field goal all year and missed it. So special teams can play a big part late in the game when you're 20 yards away on 4th and 15 and you're down 2 points. It'd be real nice to have a field goal kicker you're comfortable with, and apparently Reidsville doesn't have that, but Shelby does. Luke Hayek can make it from 50.
Well, I've been to Shelby many, many years, and when you talking about field goal kickers, they've got one every year.
Well, Luke Hayek, the kicker for Shelby, is averaging 36.7 yards on punts, which is good for high school. Yes. And he's got 36 touchbacks on kickoff, so he can put it in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And he has made 8 of 12 field goal attempts and has a 51-yarder on his resume this year. So if Shelby can get to the 30-yard line, they are within his range, and that can be a big plus in a close, tight game.
And in the playoffs, somewhere your special teams have to pull out a victory.
Well, and when I will close on the Reidsville Shelby thing with this note. Reidsville, their conference, I was shocked at this when I saw this. Their conference, they won the Mid-State 2A, but Reidsville is the only team in that conference with a winning record. Every single team in that conference had a losing record. That just amazed me. Although Reidsville did play a tough non-conference schedule with 4A Northwest Guilford, 3 Northern Guilford, and a couple other 3A and 4A teams, which they won those games. But they haven't played any real talent. 5-7 Hendersonville, 9-4 Polk County, and 9-5 Lincoln in the playoffs. So they haven't really seen an elite team in quite a while.
Well, they're going to see it tonight when Shelby arrives.
Well, this should be a great game tonight as Shelby travels over to the Reidsville Rams for where tradition meets right there. At 6:57, folks, we've got a couple more minutes left in the broadcast. And, again, don't forget Shelby plays the winner of Northeast and Southwest Onslow. And if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in the last several years, Shelby played Southwest Onslow in a state championship game, and honestly don't remember if they won. Now, you should have that stat.
Well, I should have a stat, but I do not have that stat in front of me.
Terry, I'm a little disappointed. I thought you had all this stuff memorized.
Yes.
Why do you have all those papers in front of you?
Well, that's how come, as you go through the years and your papers keep getting larger and larger and larger.
I've noticed your 42 size fonts that you use on the paper.
Yeah, that's right.
And we've got just about another minute or so to go, so let's just close out with promoing tonight's games on WOHS and KTCBroadcasting.com. As we just mentioned, Shelby travels over to face the Reidsville Rams on KTCBroadcasting.com only. Northern Guilford travels to Crest, and on KTCBroadcasting.com, Forest View Jaguars take on the undefeated Concord Spiders. And don't forget, basketball starts tonight for some of these other programs on WCSL 1590 AM. Cherryville at North Gaston, and on WLON 1050 AM Lincolnton at North Lincoln.
And one thing tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Next week's your state championships, people. If you get through tonight, there'll be a lot of traveling from this
Hey, a
side
lot of
the
travel. Looking forward to the travel next week. And on a parting note, we wanted to let you know that should Shelby, Crest, or Forest View win tonight, we will have a special state championship Witherspoon Insurance KTC broadcast and pregame show next week from 6 o'clock to 7:30. Did you hear me? Not 5:30 to 7, but 6 to 7:30 next week. Same time or same place, same station. Go see it again tonight. Thanks for joining us.
right.
Sam Davis for Terry Reinhardt, intern Dakota, and Steve Roberts. That's going to do it for tonight. Enjoy the games.